Hello, and welcome to the first of the public health management series. Today, we're going to be talking about types of health. So my name is Ariana Gonzalez. If you haven't already seen the intro video, I would suggest going back and watching that. It kind of just explains what to expect here and kind of the format. And so again, that can be found at www.lifeafterincarceration.com. It is listed here on the screen. And again, that's the introduction video on this series. But today is number 1, types of health, and I'll get us started. So this is just a brief reminder. This was in the introduction video of the different kind of content that we'll be covering during this series. So again, today, workshop 1, types of health. Next week, we'll be doing healthy habits. Overall, we're going to hope that you guys finish this series and leave with a better understanding and better knowledge of different areas of health that you see here on the screen. Increase confidence implementing different health changes or healthy behaviors. And then you're going to each get an individualized plan. So although this is pre-recorded, we do have some strategies that you guys will be able to implement to make this individualized. And I'll be actually explaining that individualized health plan here shortly. So again, this is the content coming up. And then this is what we'll be doing today. So we're going to be talking about what goes into health, different kinds of health. We're going to assess our own health. We're going to set health goals and then talk about behavior change and stages of change. If you do not already have the document pulled up from the website with the resources and materials for today, I would suggest doing that now. So if you want to pause the video, pull that out. I can show you what that looks like so you can be like, do I have the right one? Let me just flip over my screen. So it looks like this. There's a total of 10 pages. It kind of gives you an idea what's coming up. So health management types of health, that's what yours should look like. And again, that is on the website. So let's start by everybody just take a second to think about what goes into health. What does health mean to you? Now, I think most of us, when we think about that question, what goes into health, most people respond saying, working out or eating clean. Those kinds of things are the first things that people think about. But health is actually comprised of lots of different areas. As you see here, we have the 8 dimensions of wellness. This is actually the first document that you'll see in the resources that we shared, because I know on the screen it looks a little bit small. So let me just show you back to that resource page. You have it, and you can, blow it up and look at it in larger print. So I'm going to flip back. And again, we do have the sources at the bottom of each resource that we use. So if you want to go to that, you can find out more information. So again, we're going to talk about all these different dimensions of health. So it's not just, eating well and exercising, but there's lots of different realms. So we'll start with social. So social wellness, this just includes your sense of connection, your support system, how well you feel like you belong with your support system, family, friends, and how you're connected. So that's social wellness. Emotional wellness. So this is just being able to cope with life and what life throws at us, having positive outlets and good self-esteem. Spiritual health. This is related to your purpose in life. It does not have to be religious. For a lot of people, it is. And it can also be things that are more connected or derived from your sense of purpose. Again, doesn't have to be religious. For me, it's things like yoga, journaling, meditating. Those things make me feel connected to my purpose. And they might not be considered religious. In some ways, they could be. Intellectual. So this is expanding your knowledge, learning new hobbies, recognizing abilities and talents, and trying new things, such as traveling. Physical. So this is the realm that I think most people think about. So that exercise, nutrition, also sleep. We do have sessions coming up on each of these things, but that's kind of, I think, what most people think about. Then we have environmental. I don't think a lot of people think about this one. So this is having that stimulating and pleasant environment. So do you have a stimulating and pleasant environment, or is your environment cluttered and chaotic? And does that affect how you function and how you feel? Do you have natural lights? Are you getting, to be in nature? That kind of thing. Our environment does play a big role in our wellness. Then we have financial wellness, which is satisfaction with your financial situation, your ability to budget and manage finances. And then we have occupational wellness. So this is your satisfaction and purpose with work, and also that work-life balance, which is very important. So thinking about these dimensions of health, we're going to kind of shift over to the next document that is in the resource document that's provided. Let me switch to that. It's called the Wheel of Life exercise. So this is what you have, and it's actually shared on the PowerPoint as well. But there's 8 dimensions here, just like the Wheel of Life that we were just looking at. And we're going to put in these little boxes, those 8 dimensions. So if you want to scroll up and look, okay, emotional, spiritual, intellectual. So you start writing those things in here. And then after you do that, you want to take the time to assess your satisfaction or happiness in each of these areas. So this is the part where we're assessing our health, and this is going to help us identify some areas that we want to improve on and where we can start to focus going through the rest of the series. So I want to talk about why it's important to look at all of this together. We want to think about this diagram as kind of like a bike wheel. So if the wheel is nice and even like this picture, it's going to roll nice and smooth. But if you have some areas of health where you're right here, like maybe at an 8, down here, maybe at like a 3, up here, maybe at, 9, if it's uneven like that, the wheel is going to be more rough and you're going to have a bumpy ride. So it won't be that nice round circle. And so again, this is just, I think, an image that helps to think about why it's important to have that balance and feel full all the way around, or at least balanced out. And then over here, talking about balance, there are some areas that, if it's affected or impacted, it impacts, a lot of other areas. So an example is you could be worrying about money, which is financial wellness, and then experience that emotional anxiety that comes with financial struggle. And then that can lead to medical problems such as physical wellness, and then trouble at work, occupational wellness. And then this happens, and then we could even start to question our own purpose and sense of meaning. So again, that's another area, spiritual wellness. So just an example of how one thing can affect multiple areas. It can be a temporary thing or just a chronic thing, something that has been bugging you for a long time and making a lot of these other areas less than ideal. So what we're going to do, like I showed you on the other screen, you're going to enter the different areas of health into these little boxes. And then you're going to go ahead and draw, or just you can write in a number for where your satisfaction is within that realm. So 10 is the most satisfied. You're super happy with this area of wellness. 1 is not at all. So you're going to go ahead and go through this. Maybe will be an 8, maybe a 5. You could draw it if you like the visual, or you can just write in the numbers. So we're going to take a second. You probably want to pause here so you can go do that. And then I will move us right along. So now that you've completed that activity, I want to introduce what we call the individualized plans. Now I'm going to go back to that document that I showed you earlier that is on the web page. There are multiple examples in this document for individualized health plans. So you see this pink one, you'll see this one, and then I like this one the best, so we're going to talk about this one, but there's 3 options for a reason. They include the same components. So whatever visually works best for you, it makes most sense. So in each one, there's these boxes for areas to check that you want to improve on. So thinking back to that wheel that you just worked on, I want you to look at your individualized plan and decide what areas are you looking to improve on in the next, 10 weeks or however long it takes you to finish this series. For me, my 2 areas were spiritual and emotional. I want you to have at least 2, but you can have all of them if you want to improve all of them. So just go ahead and take a second, check off the areas that you really want to start to focus on improving, and areas that you'd like to see change by the end of this series. After we do that, there is a section for goals. We're going to talk about how to set SMART goals here in a minute. And then as we go through the series, you can go ahead and add strategies to achieve your goal here. So if you learn something today and learn something next time, that you think will help you achieve your goal, go ahead and jot it down here. Again, this is how it's individualized. So something that I say might click really well with someone, and then for you, it might, not be that big of a deal. But I want you to write down any strategies that you learn, either from here, from us, or outside, that you think will help you to get to your goal of improved wellness in any of those areas. And then down here, just affirmations or reminders or notes to self. It could be similar things or things to look into. So looking at our health plan, again, I want you guys to at least check off 2 different areas that you want to improve during this series. Now I'm going to talk about that next section about goals and setting SMART goals. So SMART goals is an acronym. It's a way to set healthy goals that are measurable, achievable, and doable. Sometimes we set goals that are kind of like too big. And then how do you feel when you set a goal that's too big that you can't reach it? Most of us feel defeated, like we failed. And that actually prevents us from trying again or getting back up and setting another goal, because we're used to, setting goals that might be too big. So breaking things down in a way that makes it doable. And this is a way that you can check yourself, and you can go ahead and make sure that your goal is, quote unquote, SMART. So the S in SMART stands for specific. So it's kind of like the who, what, when, where, how kind of thing. So you want to think about, like, how are you going to do this thing? Where might you be when you do this thing? And how. I'm sorry, I just said how, how, where, who, if you need someone else, that kind of thing. So for me, my goal is I want to meditate more. So that's my broad goal, meditate more. But if I said that, I'm going to go into, the week thinking, yeah, I want to meditate more, but I don't have a specific plan. I didn't decide, when I'm going to do it, how I'm going to do it. I didn't really think through the goal. And so how am I going to know if I meet it? How am I going to know if I made progress? This is a way how, if we're going to go through the SMART steps. So thinking about my meditation goal, how am I going to achieve this? So for me, I'm going to achieve this by I have an app on my phone that's called Calm. And so it's a meditation app that will, take you through a guided meditation. So I'm going to use that. So I do have a strategy. So that's how I will use it. I don't need anyone else. I don't need any other materials. So I don't really need to think about that as far as how, but some of you might have to. Some of you might have to think about transportation even as far as how you achieve this goal. So again, take time to think about how to make it specific. Then the next piece is measurable. How are you going to measure progress? How are you going to put some numbers on this goal? So if I just say meditate more, again, you can't really tell if I'm making progress on that goal. And if you don't see progress, it also, makes it less motivating to follow through. So for me, I'm going to set a goal of 1 time a week. And I'm also, you want to think about not only frequency or how often you want to do this thing, but you want to think about duration for some of these things. So for me, duration does matter. I can do 5 minutes, 10, 20, I can pick any number. So I'm going to go ahead and pick 10 minutes, 1 time a week. And the next piece is this achievable or doable? For me, this is very achievable. So this is a step where you're going to check yourself. Like, okay, I said I'm going to meditate 1 time a week using my Calm app for 10 minutes. For me, that is doable, achievable. It's not too much pressure. However, if I were to have said, I'm going to meditate 5 times a week for 10 minutes, this is a step that you might get to that you're thinking, like, is this doable? Technically, like, for some people that might be very doable. For me, not so much. You want to consider where you're starting. So right now, if I'm starting I meditate right now like once a month. So for me, if I try to go to 5 times a week, that's a lot. And it's a lot to hold myself responsible for right away. I think it's too big of a goal, and I don't think I'm going to achieve it. I don't think it's quite realistic. So for me, I'm good with the 1 time a week for 10 minutes. Then you move on to the R, which stands for relevant. So you're thinking about how to connect this goal to something that is important to you. So even though this is a goal that you set for yourself already, it does help motivate you when you can relate it to a bigger goal in your life or a bigger sense of purpose. So for me, this meditation goal is very relevant because I did check off that spiritual realm that I want to improve. And I do think meditation will help me achieve that. It will help me improve that area of wellness in my life, and that's important to me. So just take time to think about that piece. Then the last step is timely. So what's the deadline? When do you want to do this thing by? If you have financial goals, let's say like you want to save, X amount of money by, this date because you have something coming up, or you want to get a new car, or whatever you might have a specific deadline. For me, I don't need to get this meditation thing done by any certain date, but I still do want to set a deadline for myself. I want to give myself a deadline if one doesn't already exist. So for me, I'm thinking about how often I'm doing this thing. So once a week. And I'm going to set the deadline of 8 weeks. So I want to see myself doing this once a week for 8 weeks in a row. Then at that 8 weeks, I can kind of reassess, see how I'm doing. I can change it, I can modify it, or I can just keep going with the goal that I had. So again, this is kind of a way to make sure you're thinking about all of the pieces that go into the goal before actually taking the steps. So this is the piece that helps you in that preparation stage of change, which we're actually going to talk about next, where you're preparing to make the change. So if you want to implement this right now, I'm going to do it with you. I'm going to go back to this individualized health plan under goals. So I just told you guys mine is meditation, but it's not just meditate more. I decided I'm going to meditate 1 time per week using my Calm app on my phone for 10 minutes each for 8 weeks. So there's my goal. It's pretty specific, pretty measurable. It's pretty detailed, right? So instead of writing down here, meditate more, I thought through it and wrote this goal this way. So if you were thinking of an example as I was going through the SMART goals, this might be a good time to pause this and write down your own goal, broken down using those SMART goal components. So now that we talked about that, I mentioned stages of change just a minute ago. I got ahead of myself. I really like talking about stages of change, though. This is going to be important, and we're going to refer to it probably throughout. This is a model that describes any of the steps that are related to what people go through when they're making a change, behavior change. So I do want to say behavior change is hard. That's why we have it here on the screen. It's not an easy thing. And most of us go through all these stages. Some of us go through some of them, but it's not a perfect circle. You don't have to start somewhere and make it all the way around. And I'll kind of explain why. So we're going to start with pre-contemplation. This is the stage where you are in denial. You don't think there's a problem with XYZ. You think you're just fine. So an easy example would be if you are a smoker and your family's telling you stop smoking, it's bad for you, and you're just like, yeah, I'm fine. Like I've smoked all these years. Nothing's, affected me. I'm healthy, that kind of thing. So again, you're in denial of the problem, not really seeing it as a concern. In this example, it looks like this person might need to be eating better, it looks like, because maybe their heart or health is affected, but at the same time, this person's like, nah, I'm fine. Then you get to contemplation, the next stage, which is where you're just on the fence. That's what I want you to picture with contemplation stage. You're kind of teetering. Do I want to make the change? I kind of want to make the change. So you recognize here, like, there is a problem. Like, okay, this person's recognizing, like, okay, maybe I do need to get more healthy, but you're still not sure that you want to make the change or that you're ready to make that change. So going back to the smoking example too, the person might say, okay, I know that smoking is affecting my health, but do I really want to do something about it? Is it really affecting it that bad? They go back and forth. So the difference between pre-contemplation and contemplation, again, is pre-contemplation, you don't recognize a problem. You're not even acknowledging there is a problem. You're in denial. Contemplation, you acknowledge there is a problem. You haven't yet decided what you're going to do about it. Contemplation is a good time, if you recognize yourself being in that stage, to do a pro-con list. So listing any pros that you can think of, any cons that you can think of making this behavior change. The next stage is called preparation, the one that I referenced on the slide before. This is a stage where you've passed contemplation, you decided, yes, I'm going to make that change, and you start to prepare for how you're going to do that. So kind of like what we did with the SMART goal, we thought about like how, what, who, when, where, how. I keep saying how lots of times, but it's very important to think about different aspects going into that. So the preparation stage, this person looks like they decided they want to make a health change. They're starting to read about health tips. What can I do? What should I do? So when you decided, I do want to make this change, you're getting ready to do it. Action stage is when you start doing the thing, you start implementing what you prepared to do. This person starts exercising. For a smoker, they might start using a patch or doing something differently to prevent themselves from smoking. Then when you get to maintenance phase, that's the phase where you have been in action stage for at least 6 months. So you're maintaining that behavior for 6 months or more. This is when, things start to feel easier because they start to just feel like kind of part of your day-to-day life. It's not so much of an effort to make the change because it's not a brand new change. You've been doing it for a while. Last but not least is relapse. So not everybody goes through relapse, but unfortunately it is pretty common. Relapse is just when you relapse and go back to old behaviors that you were doing before you made this behavior change. So you might start smoking again if you were that smoker that, stopped smoking. This person looks like they might indulge in some food that they don't think is good for them, or they tried to stop eating. So again, relapse is pretty common. It's actually very common because, like I said, behavior change is hard. So if you find yourself in this stage, I do want to make sure you hear that you're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. I heard that phrase somewhere and I love it and I use it all the time, but it's very true. So even though it feels like you have to start over, you do have some experiences to reflect on now. So you can reflect on, okay, what was I doing before that was working? What was I doing before that wasn't working? Or where did I fall through the cracks? You can jump right into preparation stage of change when you're ready, and start thinking about how to create a different plan or adjust or modify your plan to make this work better for you. So this model, like I said, we'll be thinking about it and using it going forward. Today, if you did write a SMART goal, you're at least in that preparation stage of change. So you're showing that you're getting ready and starting to think through the details that go into making the change. So planning ahead. Next week, we're going to be talking about healthy habits. One of my favorite topics. It's the foundation for meeting goals, behavior change in general, because we want to make a habit out of that behavior change so that it does become easier to do. And then I do want to share one more resource that we had on that document. I'm going to switch screens over. So below the individualized plans, there's a stages of change handout with that same diagram you saw, but more explanation if you're, still stuck on something and you want to just read more about it. And I give you an example. It's actually that smoking example, but just more details written there. And then last but not least, this is a lifestyle assessment form. If you're interested in going further to assess your health even further today, this is a good assessment to take. So it asks you to think about your health, think about your sleep, your nutrition, weight, exercise, mental health, and smoking or substance use. And at the end, you identify some areas that you might want to focus on. This might help you think of more ideas to add to your individualized plan. So if you do complete this, think about how you can go back to your plan and add or adjust as needed. So you could add something in there that you might realize after doing that, like, okay, yeah, it is maybe important to me to stop smoking or at least reduce that. So you might add it somewhere in here. So that is the last resource for today. And again, next week we'll be doing healthy habits, and it will be posted on YouTube, but also the website, lifeafterincarceration.com. And again, all these resources that I keep flipping over to, it'll be in one long PDF document that will be right under the video on the website. So thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing everybody here next week for healthy habits.